for anybody that's joining us here that maybe missed the first round of this, Mike Prince and myself, Trevor Turnbull, are hopping on talking about the journey that's brought us to this place now where we have this extremely conscious man movement and an inner circle that's just so uplifting. Like the last week and a half has just been amazing. And now we have this experience coming up in Costa Rica as well. And we just thought, what's the best thing that we could do right now to reach those guys that are looking for what it is we've created here, but they just don't know it even exists. And we thought, let's just back it up a little bit. Let's hit the rewind on that and figure out how you and I can communicate that to everybody, which is just hop on here and talk about stuff. Hey, brother, I'm going to stop for 1 second though, because you need to refresh your browser, it tells me, because you are not recording. So give that a shot, because we definitely want to make sure that Mike's recording. And in the meantime, it's now the Trevor Turnbull Show, which you can see on the wall there, which is very fitting, of course. I was prepared for this moment. No, I'm just kidding. We'll give him a moment. Just when we thought we had all the tech issues sorted out, we ended up with some more. But
all right,
we're resilient. We just kind of flow with things. This is what we do.
Did we refresh? Are we back?
You're back, and I see the record. I see the
Beautiful.
record button on your side now. Yeah. Cool.
It happens. It's technology.
Right on. I'm not sure exactly where that cut off. Yeah, exactly. But again, man, I was just saying while you were off there, number one, I said, all right, it's the Trevor Turnbull Show now. Good thing I got a sign on the wall. But the second piece was just how like fitting is this to even how we've approached this entire journey too. It's, we start going down a path and then something gets in our way and says, no, you're not doing that no more. And we got to adjust and pivot and swing back and forth.
I think this whole journey has been exactly that. We've been so fluid with it all to know that we are flowing every chapter of this story. And this is no different. So
yeah.
The tennis match. Let's dive in.
Totally, man. And I was going to say that the tennis match is almost an example of the complete 180 of that. You and I showed up to the tennis court, which is like 2 blocks from our place, because of course we were like 3 doors down from each other. And I think I was genuinely excited about just being able to get out and play tennis again, because both of us used to live in Vancouver, and I was telling you how I would just go down to Stanley Park by myself and hit the ball against the wall. Like, I love playing tennis.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we had this great court. Well, it's still there in West Kelowna in Glen Rosa. Yep. And I think you probably threw it out first. Like, hey, why don't we go hit some balls one day? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. I was pumped, man. It's going to be a fun
Likewise.
day.
Yeah. It was finally that connection point of, okay, past the beers and cheers and hellos. And we said, let's go. So it was definitely that point of like a first date, a little bit intriguing. I was like, I want to know more about this dude. We've had some, he lives down the street, and see if he plays tennis. And it had been, since I played consistency, oh my gosh, years and years and years. But I've played in that Stanley Park court a few times when we lived there. And so, yeah, it was, as you say, it was exciting. And it was exciting to just get back at looking at physical routine again, other than the gym as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and it was just a casual kind of like smack the ball back and forth. We weren't out there drilling aces or anything like that. But I remember there just being a lot of back and forth conversation. And one of the things that came up, of course, was Costa Rica, which, of course, for those of you that don't know, this surfboard here is an actual usable surfboard, because we are in Costa Rica. We made that dream come true. It was almost 2 years ago, a year and 10 months ago. And I know that really intrigued you, because you had already been down that path too, of looking at how you can have places in homes in multiple places and living that life. But maybe you want to speak to that as far as the conversation.
Yeah, big time. I remember that came up, and that was a huge piece for me. My ears and eyes probably burst out of my head, because I was like, move your family to Costa Rica. And then, of course, the first question was, what do you do for work? How are you doing that? And then, the online marketing world has always intrigued me on options there. And so my mind absolutely went multiple different places. And I remember immediately going home and talking to my wife about wanting to do the same and coming up with a strategy of how we can do it. And for a time there, we were actually, thinking about doing the same thing. getting there, what would have been this
Yeah.
past January, last month or this month, and just doing it for 6 months or so. So yeah, that was I remember that being a huge connection point for us. It was just like the adventure aspect of, looking at the expansion of our reality and what we can do with our families instead of looking at the excuses. I found a dude that believed in similar things I did. That doesn't matter. We have families and that, we have XYZ responsibilities and mortgages. We can still go and look at these adventures and they are realistic. And then that second piece was, I want to learn more about what the hell is going on online, because the ultimate dream for me is to live from wherever I want to and not let that piece hold me down. So I knew immediately there was two connection pieces there that I was super intrigued on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know from my perspective, man, it was, I've been doing this online stuff now for almost 20 years, and we've joked around about it, and I've said it on podcasts before, it's like overnight success, 15 years in the making. It's like, I just thought of this yesterday. It's like, no, man, I've been working towards this forever. But when I talked with you, I just remembered a genuine curiosity. And I think that was the biggest thing that was like, oh, this guy's actually digging what I'm saying, and he's not finding reasons for me not to be able to do it. And I found that a lot of the conversations that I might have been having with others, and not everybody, I had other people in my life that would kind of lean in and go, ooh, that sounds interesting. Tell me more. How? Like, what's it look like? What's the timeline? But some people would just straight up say like, well, that's insane. How could you possibly do that? You're just going to leave your country? What about your family? What about the healthcare? What about the dangers? All of these things, right? But there was a curiosity to at least explore the conversation. And of course, knowing the timeline on that, it was a year after we had our first trip there planned already, which of course got canceled in March of 2020 for obvious reasons. And yeah, it was uplifting to just have a conversation where I could speak about unlimited possibilities and what might have been seemingly crazy ideas to some, but to you, it was real, even if it was, kind of distant and cloudy. There was that aspect of that conversation that was really uplifting.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, looking back on, that initial chat and conversation, it's an interesting one because we did kind of have that connection point, but then faded out for a little while. Right. And I think there's a couple of reasons to that as well. And I know one on my side, because I remember playing that tennis game and being like, what the hell? I had these restrictions. I was having some physical challenges at the time that I didn't know what they were. And one piece that was greatly affected was my hand. And it would be curved like this. I couldn't straighten it and I couldn't bend it past a certain point. And so on all my serves, I had this curve that I couldn't get. And so of course my judgmental self and my competitive self was like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. And I don't even think I shared it at the time. I might've said I had some cramps going on or something, but I was well aware of it and I didn't realize that till, and of course that feeds into a later part of my journey that I had learned, after going through many, many tests. But the reality is, I think Trev had reached out a week later to say, oh, let's play another game. And I remember avoiding his text. I might have answered, but made an excuse. I'm sure I answered, but I came up with some excuse because I knew I had this limitation that I couldn't explain. And frankly, it was kind of embarrassing for me, not knowing someone very well, wanting to step in a ring and show up well in somewhere that I knew traditionally I could play well. And, I won't go too deep into it, but later we learned through many, many tests, that was the onset of Lyme's disease. And as it was starting to attack all of my joints and all of that. And so it just got worse and worse as the months went on, and I eventually figured it out. But yeah, I remember that. And the reason I was making excuses not to play after that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you shared that. And from my perspective, I remembered there was two pieces to it. One was that, oh, that was fun. I think I want to do that again. Like I'm going to make an effort here to proactively say, let's go do that on next Thursday. Like, not a general statement, but actually pick a date and say, let's go. And then I remember from my perspective thinking like, this dude's not really making an effort to get back to me. And then there was part of me thinking like, well, then screw this. You know, I'm not going to spend my time trying to follow up. That was one part of it, which was all a story, right? Like, how many times do we do that? And we've seen this so many times in our betterman community, and even with the inner circle. It's like, well, I'm going to go do this, but if you're not going to show up, well, then I'm not going to show up. It's like, well, why do we operate like that? Like, you do this for you, regardless of the feedback loop that comes back, was the first lesson that kind of came out of that. But the second one was that I kind of let that go fairly easily though too, because part of me just kind of wanted to still hide in my little cave that was my downstairs office, where I wasn't really acting on all of my great intentions to get in better shape and to have more engaging conversations and build my personal inner circle with people that lifted me up, because I knew that I'd have to face some realities myself, some truths that, quite frankly, I was just not willing to go there. And that was on me solely, right? So it wasn't even your fault. It was both of us having our own kind of stories that stopped us from actually seeing possibilities, which in hindsight, I'll just say this and I'll let you respond. You know, I truly believe that everything is always divine and happening exactly how it's supposed to in the exact time. So who knows how this story would have been written differently if you and I did proactively try and connect more in those first few months. But that's what came to mind for me, man, was just how many times I've told myself a story that I'm waiting for somebody else to move before I'll move, or when I would just go and hide because it was safer. If nobody sees what I'm doing, then I can say that I'm living my best life and taking my family to Costa Rica and all of these things, and I look and sound really cool. But on the inside, I was like 30 pounds overweight. And we just shared photos on this, both me and you, today.
Yep.
It's funny. It's ironic, the timing. Or not. Of course, it's divine, right? But that was the truth, is both of us were kind of in a down spot at that point in our lives, and maybe a little embarrassed by it. I think that's ultimately what it came down to.
Yeah, it was. And then shortly after there, we can look, it was a transitional phase. It really was. I was in a peak state, in fact, but because of what was coming to me in a health perspective that I had zero control of, I absolutely was starting to get in a down spot of not knowing what it was and the confusion. And then still on the development space, it was leaning in, but not really wanting to let go of some parts of my old self. I remember having my birthday that summer, and I had found out about my diagnosis with Lyme, but I was told, oh, it's early stages, no problem. Take these antibiotics, you'll be fine. And reaching out to my naturopath and even saying, is it a big deal if I drink for one day on my birthday? Because I had something planned, for real. And looking back, what an idiot. Like, just so silly that I felt that was, something I wanted to prioritize because I had plans over my health. So It's very interesting looking back on all that. But I know that, probably in our interactions further, because I think we kind of faded a little bit for that summer, but it was almost like hiding a portion of our old selves and putting forth our best self when we interacted, right? Mm-hmm. And still teetering on that fence, still living in both worlds, not fully stepping forward with our truths and our authentic self where we want it to go.
Yeah, I think of the term faking it till you make it. And I remember using that terminology like in 2010, 11, 12 type thing, when I was just starting to lean into building my own, personal brand and my own voice and that type of thing. And that was the kind of things that I was hearing was, well, you just fake it till you make it. You just act as though things are all put together and that you're crushing it, and look at these results in my life and my business and my finances. And years later, of course, it takes a decade for me to actually face the truth of, yeah, okay, I've built some stuff and I've done some things, but what did I sacrifice to get there? And then now looking back, Would I have changed anything? Well, no, this is what brought me to here. Again, it's kind of appreciation and acceptance of the truth. This is what brought me to here. I need to love all of it, including the really shitty parts. But now going forward, like once you understand that there is no faking it till you make it. There's either you show up in integrity with who you say you are, with who you actually are, or there's not. That's it. And I think when you and I started this inner circle as a great example, there was like all the guys that we've had join us in this are all amazing guys. And they came in with a lot of enthusiasm and excitement. And we even witnessed in the first week too, where what we say we do and what we actually do was a little bit off, including with me and you. We had to call each other up and be like, are we really making time for this? Are we really not making excuses? Yeah, it's such an interesting thing to reflect back on all of that and how it's shown up at these different phases, especially at that time when you and I first met, and how it slowed us down from ultimately maybe moving a little faster. See, that is old self saying like, we could have been so much further ahead, man. But no.
But no, it was all the little learnings along the way. And yeah, but we've certainly learned, one thing that we've held strong by is exactly as you said, living with integrity. Anytime before we introduce anything to our core groups, we're doing it for a period of time, and we're making sure we're doing it, truly testing our limits a little bit, and stacking even more than we do with anybody else. And the big piece in that is making, as you said, accountability, and making sure that we're in integrity ourselves by calling each other up, right? And that's a big part of this journey. Is we've both been the lone wolves, and we've both played in this space in both family and our careers solo, and been successful. But what we've learned and looked at in all the tools is that when we leverage each other, support each other, learn from one another, we can go further.
I feel like this is a perfect transition for us to end this one, man, and plant the seed for the next one, because what this comes down to is leaning into the uncomfortable conversations with each other, being able to see where a person's saying one thing and doing another, and then saying it to them, saying, hey, you made a promise to yourself and you're not doing it. I'm going to call you up on that. And how do we train that? How do we train ourselves to actually lean into that uncomfortableness as opposed to shying away from it or resisting it or fighting it or whatever it might be? And yeah, this next episode that we're going to talk about will be, I think, one of the things that really kind of connected me and you, which was that horse trough in your backyard, man. So we'll drop that hint for everybody and tell you that we'll pick up there next time. But yeah.
Amazing. I love it. And join us on the next one, guys, because the journey's just getting started.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching once again. We kept it under 20 minutes, and yeah, just that one call to action like we did last time. If you're unfamiliar with what the heck we're even talking about, or you're curious about something that we dropped here and you want to learn more, head over to extremelyconscious.com. You'll find all the information that you need about what we've co-created to date, as well as what is coming up here as well. And this is going to be vulnerable, honest, real truth. So we'll talk a little bit more about that on the next one with regards to this horse trough. There's a lot of truth and uncomfortableness to come in that conversation as well. So
we're just getting into the meaty bits, and we are on Instagram too at Extremely Conscious. Some fun stuff there.
Absolutely.
Follow along.
More content coming every day too. We just aligned on making sure that we can publish some consistent content over there for everybody as well. So thanks, brother. We'll see you on the next one.
You betcha. Have a powerful day.